The Weald Foundation was established to preserve, restore and maintain historic military vehicles and related equipment, and to educate the public about their history. Established as a charitable trust in 2003, the Foundation oversees a unique collection. It is considered to be one of the finest working collections in the world and contains some very rare vehicles.
Our mission is to collect, restore and preserve items from the Second World War and from the First World War. These would be really unique items that are not only rare, but also really important items from a design perspective. The National Collection is missing a number of items that are very interesting to us. And so what we did was we went out and actually started to piece together the items that were either not running in this country, that were not complete in this country, or did not exist in this country.
In the early days of the Foundation, the emphasis was on the restoration of historic German armoured vehicles. The reason we went down that road was there was every possibility that a lot of these vehicles would be lost to history, and we felt it important to preserve them for future generations. We largely have achieved most of those objectives, and we're now broadening out to take in new areas of activity such as the First World War and what we're referring to as the Empire Project.
If you hear about the British Army, okay, you don't think of South Africa. You don't think of Australia, and you definitely don't think of India. And in India, in First World War, there were 1.5 million Indians fighting for the British Army. In the Second World War, there were 2.5 million. If that fact was well known and well distributed, that would actually change the face of the popular narrative in terms of what we understand, how those armies were actually made up.
People fail to recognise that not only did India contribute vast numbers of soldiers, sailors and airmen, but they also designed and built one of the most effective armoured personnel carriers of the Second World War. And yet there isn't a single surviving example in the Western Hemisphere. Hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, over the next few years we will be able to recover one and restore it.
The final part of the collection is the First World War, to actually find 2 original First World War tanks. And to be able to participate in the First World War commemorative events was just fantastic. It was just something we would never walk away from. And so we've been working now on doing 2 very representative tanks from the First World War, a Renault FT and a Renault TSF, the wireless tank.
Over the years, the Foundation has restored a wide variety of artefacts, all of which are brought back to life in the Foundation's on-site workshop. Andy oversees much of the fabrication and restoration work that is carried out. One of the current projects is to restore the engines from the Foundation's First World War tanks.
We're looking at the cylinder block of the TSF-FT Renault engine. The corrosion has been much worse than you'd normally find. This would normally be scrap, but as there are so few of them, the only thing we've got to do is fix it. The price of casting a new one is prohibitive or massively expensive, so we've got to make the best of what we've got here, and so far it's been successful. All these things that we're working on at the moment are the first stages in the building blocks of getting the engines back together, really, because if we can't salvage this, we've got to source another one. Until we've got these sorted, we can't order the liners, we can't order the pistons, we can't do the crank, we can't do the white metalling. It's all mapped out in the future, but we've got to start somewhere, and this is where we're starting.
We are a working restoration facility, but as far as possible we try to include as many different groups of people in that process. So we encourage schools to come here, we've run education and training programs over the years, and outreach work in the wider community.
We've had such a wonderful time in collecting, restoring and preserving these vehicles over time that we thought we would do a lot more for the community at large, not only for the people that are enthusiastic about all this, not only for the people who are real fans of this particular genre, but for those who, let's say, would not necessarily or normally get access to this.
We've been running a really successful apprenticeship program here for a number of years. So far we've managed to put through 4 apprentices, all of whom have gone on to full-time employment in a related sector, whether that be engineering or the heritage sector. And that's something I'm very keen to build on in the future.
Rosie is one of the Foundation's success stories. Initially taken on as an apprentice, she now has a permanent position on the team.
Here at the Weald Foundation, I'm in charge of the website admin. I also do a lot of the archiving and conservation work. We've got the archive building full of artefacts that need quite a lot of work every now and then. They need cleaning and we need to document them in the computer system that I help build. And I also am in charge of the computer-aided design, which I learned to do during my apprenticeship. Being able to do an apprenticeship here has just been fantastic. I mean, without it, I don't know what I would have been doing. I can do stuff now that I never thought I would even dream of being able to do, especially with things like the AutoCAD. First time I looked at that, I just didn't have a clue, but thanks to being able to be here, training, hands-on, it's just been brilliant being able to take that into the real world and just for it all to become a reality. Being here, you're actually helping create sort of like pieces of history. We're getting given photos of stuff that hasn't existed for 100 years or whatever, and having to actually build that and investigate and something it's just a really interesting experience and quite a steep learning curve, but I'm really glad I did it.
It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. We're expecting in about an hour and a half's time, about 12 to 15 young people from one of the local schools. It's part of a project that we've been running since about 2013 with the Heritage Lottery Fund and Juvenile Justice International. The idea is to give children from these schools the opportunity to come here, look at the vehicles, letting them interact with them, study them. Sometimes the visits go really well and we have the opportunity to draw out from the children experiences relating to their parents or their grandparents and local history, what happened to them during the Second World War.
Right, everybody follow me.
See that curly pattern on the back? That's the back of the driver's seat. Your classic tank's got a turret on top, so you can spin it 360 degrees. The turret is where the round bit at the top where the gun sticks out. This hasn't got a turret. This gun is fixed.
That's a little bit impractical.
It is a little bit impractical.
I think it went really well today. We gave them a ride in a vehicle, we took them around the workshops, we allowed them to climb over all sorts of other vehicles, had lots of interesting engagement with them, good questions, lots of really good interaction, and that's what the day is really all about. Everybody was fantastically well behaved and it was a joy to see them all having such a good time. This foundation is about sharing. It's about sharing information, it's about sharing our knowledge, it's about sharing the vehicles. It's about creating a centre of excellence. It's about attracting good people in and getting them to share in that vision.
This organisation does not end when we are gone. This organisation will carry on. We intend to form a legacy museum which will continue what we are doing for the future.